As I've let Attorney Durkin know, one of the witnesses that we had scheduled for this afternoon has, I guess, called in sick. He is indicated to us, it's the paramedic, Josh Gagnon. He's indicated he's just simply incapable of coming to court today due to an illness. So I've rearranged some witnesses. I had the folks that I thought might require tomorrow. I have them coming today. So I anticipate we'll get through pretty much everybody with the exception of him. He's said he should be fine to come at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning as the last witness that the state will present.
Okay. And then, so we'll get started now, but if I need to be called over to one of the arraignments, we'll see if we need one. Then we may have to take a short break for that.
Okay.
Otherwise, we may as well get started.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead and bring in the jury.
Be seated.
All right, folks, as the state calls its next witness, please feel free to get settled with your notebook if you're choosing to use them. And state can go ahead.
State calls Joseph Zaremba.
Good afternoon, sir. Will you come around the back side of the witness box? Please raise your right hand. Swear that the testimony you're about to give to this jury is the whole truth and the penalty of the jury. Yes, thank you. You may be seated.
Good afternoon. Can you please state your name for the record and spell your first and last name?
Yes, Joseph Zaremba. It's J-O-S-E-P-H. Last name is Zaremba, Z-A-R-E-M-B-A.
Joseph, where do you currently work?
Home Depot.
And what do you do there?
I'm a merchandising execution associate supervisor.
What does that mean?
That's basically, I'm in control of a team of 10 to 12 people for a certain location, executing on behalf of the vendor.
And what location do you work?
I'm at the Northampton location currently.
And those 10 to 12 people, do they work under you?
Correct.
And how long have you been with Home Depot?
Almost 3 years.
Are you familiar with Jordan Lamonde?
I am.
And how do you know Jordan?
I know Jordan. He was an associate. He was a merchandising execution associate underneath me.
Okay, so was he one of those 10 to 12 people working underneath you?
He was, yes.
And what did Jordan do when he worked for you? What was his role?
Jordan was in the aisles, basically performing what we call general service, on the bags for the vendors. So basically, there's a list of things that we have to do to fulfill our contract with each vendor, and he's amongst several other peers of his on that team that are, doing different things per each, per the vendor contract. And
when did he work for you?
He worked for me at the Portsmouth location, approximately, I'd say, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Okay, so like late 2016, early 2017, does that sound right?
That sounds about right, yeah.
Do you see Jordan in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you just identify him by just an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Sure, he's sitting right over there in the blue shirt.
Your Honor, we just requested the record reflect what he's identified.
Any objection?
No objection.
Record will so reflect.
At some point when Jordan was working for you, did you have the opportunity to have a conversation with him about his performance at work, kind of a review?
I did.
And when did this conversation take place?
It took place, we do them half the date, so basically every half we have a conversation with the associate to go over their performance and basically create a blueprint or give them feedback as to where they can improve.
So this one that you had with Jordan in particular, do you remember approximately when it occurred?
It was shortly after the incident. I don't know the exact date.
Did Jordan tell you anything during this review about a theft?
He did.
What did he tell you about that theft?
He had said that on New Year's Eve he had gotten his safe stolen from his grandparents' house.
And would this have been New Year's Eve this year or last year? What year New Year's Eve?
The year of, the previous year.
So 2016 into 2017?
Correct.
And this conversation with Jordan happened sometime after New Year's?
Correct.
Did he tell you anything about what was taken during this theft?
Yes, he said that he had cash value, and it was approximately about $30,000.
Did he tell you any other details about the theft at that time?
He said he had thought that he had knew who it was, and that he was, he was engaged in finding out who it was that did that.
Did he tell you at this point who it was? Or did he just say he knew who it was?
No, he said he had some ideas of who it was.
After having this conversation with Jordan, did he continue to kind of bring up this stuff at work?
He did.
How often?
Pretty often. He was, I would say he was obsessive about it in the aisles with his other peers.
Would you ever hear him talking about it?
I would.
Sorry, I didn't.
I would, yes.
Would it affect his performance at work?
It was affecting his performance at work, yes.
And how so?
It was a distraction to others. His other peers were coming to me saying, Jordan's constantly talking about his safe being stolen. He's very upset about it. He's very angry about it. And that he was, continuing to pursue, find out what had happened.
I want to turn your attention now to a few weeks after you had that initial conversation with Jordan regarding the theft. Did he bring it up again to you in particular?
He did.
And how did it come up that day?
It came up that day because I brought him into a room to have a person.
You really know him. You don't know him from outside of work, right?
I do not.
And it's pretty safe to say that during the time that you were his supervisor at Home Depot, he had expressed his anger and frustration about being the victim of a robbery.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
No redirect.
All right, so you may step down. Thank you. State want to play your next witness, please?
She called Savannah Ellis.
When you come around the backside, please remain standing just for a moment and kindly raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give to this jury will be the truth and the whole truth and the defendant is guilty? Please be seated.
Good afternoon. Can you state your full name for the record and then spell both your first and last name?
Savannah Jane Ellis, that's S-A-V-A-N-N-A-H, then Ellis is E-L-L-I-S.
Savannah, do you currently work?
Not currently.
Have you worked in the past?
Yes,
Where have you worked?
Planet Fitness,
And which Planet Fitness did you work at?
both Lee and Dover.
So not the Rochester.
No.
Savannah, I want to turn your attention to June of 2017. At some point that month, did you see a video of an assault that had occurred outside of the Planet Fitness?
I did.
And this was, just to clarify, not the Planet Fitness that you worked at, correct?
Right, not Planet Fitness.
How did you view this video? How did you see it?
I saw it on Facebook.
And after seeing the video, did you contact the police?
Yes, I did.
And why did you contact the police?
Because I knew who the person was and I wanted to bring him justice.
How did you know who it was?
I recognized the walk and I've seen the cop before, his cop before.
And what car was that?
I'm not good at cars, I'm sorry.
Let's see if we can narrow it down. Was it a sedan, an SUV?
It was a four-door, I'm sorry, I'm not good at the names of cars.
That's right. So you recognize the car?
Yes, I do. I've been in it before.
And you recognize the individual in the video?
I do.
And who did you recognize it as? Who was it?
Jordan Lamonde.
Savannah, how do you know Jordan Lamonde?
I've been acquaintance with them. I was one of his best friend's girlfriend, so I've known him for a while.
So it sounds like you said that you were dating one of his best friends.
Yes, I
right?
did.
And who was that?
Eric Ben.
When you were dating Eric, would you hang out with Jordan?
Yes, I would.
And how often would you hang out with Jordan?
Quite a while. Either we would go to his house or he would come to our house.
And when were you hanging out with Jordan on a regular basis?
So I can clarify that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Probably rephrase that better. When, like what year were you hanging out with Jordan?
So I was dating Eric for like about 5 years, so within the years of 2013 to like early 2017.
And all throughout that time, did you hang out with Jordan on a fairly regular basis?
I did.
When you would hang out with him, would it be in a group, one-on-one? How would it work?
It would be a group.
When you would hang out with Eric, so your ex-boyfriend, and Jordan, did Jordan ever mention anything about someone stealing something?
Yes, he did.
And what did he say?
He just talked about a safe being stolen from him, and it was just something that would be bought quite a while.
So would he bring this up on one occasion, more than one occasion?
Probably two to three times.
And did he mention who he thought it might be, who had stolen the safe?
Yes.
And who did he mention to be?
Joe and Stephen Bunch.
Did he mention anything to you about what was in the safe?
No.
Did he ask, your ex, so Eric, to do anything about it or to help him do anything about it?
Not.
Can you approach?
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that question has been withdrawn. It's stricken from the record, and the jury's not to consider that information in any way.
When Jordan would talk about the theft with you and Eric, how did he appear?
Like antsy, obviously angry about it.
You talked to police and saw the video you mentioned in June of 2017. When was this conversation with Jordan about the theft in relation to June of 2017? So when did it happen?
You mean the theft, or like when I talked to police?
No, when you talked to Jordan about the theft.
It was, I don't know like a specific month, but it was probably like, I would say, like 6 or 7 months before June.
So prior to June of 2017?
Yes.
So some months prior?
Yes.
As of June of 2017, so when you talked to police now, were you still hanging out with Jordan on a regular basis at that time?
No, it wasn't.
So when did you stop hanging out with Jordan? When?
The same, like right around the same time he was starting to bring out the safe.
Okay, so 6 or 7 months
Yes.
prior, or some months prior. And Savannah, did you see Jordan in the courtroom today?
I did.
And can you just identify him just by an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Blue shirt.
And Your Honor, we just requested the record reflect that he's also identified.
No objection. The record will still reflect.
Oh, Your Honor, just a minute.
Yes.
Savannah, that's all the questions I have for you. I'll turn it over to Attorney Burke who might have some.
Attorney Durkin, cross-examination.
So Jordan was a friend of yours?
Yes, he was.
One time he paid for your heating bill or something for a month or two?
Yeah, he did.
And you told the prosecutor that you had a conversation about him being upset about being robbed 6 or 7 months prior to June 2017, right?
Correct.
So that would have been in December or November of 2016?
Yeah, around that time. Yeah, probably like either late October, November.
Of 2016?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
He never discussed this assault case with you, right?
Not online. The only thing I've seen was the Facebook video showing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any redirect?
And just one question very briefly. When you're talking about the date of this conversation with Jordan about the theft, are you positive about it or are you just kind of estimating what it was?
I'm just estimating, I don't know again, the specific day of the month, but I know it's around that time frame.
And some months prior?
Yes.
Some months prior to June of 2017?
Correct.
Any retrial?
No follow-up. Thank you, Judge.
All right. Let me step down.
Thank you.
At this time, the state calls Detective Steve Burke.
Second, sir. Kindly remain standing, raise your right hand. You swear that the testimony you're about to give this jury will be the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Please be seated.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hello,
Can you please state your full name and spell both your first and last name for the record?
Stephen Burke, S-T-E-V-E-N, last name is Burke, B-U-R-K-E.
Mr. Burke, are you currently employed, sir?
Hey,
How are you employed?
with the Stratford County Sheriff.
And how long have you been with the Stratford County Sheriff's Department?
About a week.
And what duties and responsibilities do you anticipate performing for the Sheriff's Department?
I'll be doing ICAP work, technical work.
Just so we're clear, what's ICAP for?
The Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, intersection of computer crimes involving children.
And prior to this last week, had you been employed with any other law enforcement agency?
Yes.
And who had you been employed with?
Rochester PD from 2005 until last week. Primarily doing investigations for violent assaults.
And prior to Rochester, did you have any other law enforcement experience?
I did from 89 until 2005, I was with the Social Department, mostly on patrol security.
How long is your entire law enforcement career spanning?
28 and a half years ago.
So I want to talk about your time with Rochester.
Okay.
What was your duties and responsibilities? Let's focus on the 2017 time frame. What duties and responsibilities did you perform for the department then?
I was assigned to investigations. I also worked on the ICAP task force, so I did a little of both in the department. Crimes involving technical assets I would get involved in.
What was the rank that you held with Rochester at that time?
Detective.
So you were a detective with Rochester. Did you receive any type of specialized training or education?
In regards to what I mean.
With regards to your role as a detective with Rochester, as far as some of the technological investigations?
I did. On the violent crime side, I attended interview and interrogation training, forensic interview skills, crime scene investigation, things of that nature. And as I got to the technology side, I attended some training through Homeland Security for seized computer evidence recovery, Macintosh specific training, phone training with different various tools, and it's been an ongoing process.
So I want to talk about this investigation in regards to Jordan Lamonde. Okay. I want to start with, how did you become involved in this investigation?
There was some video that was seized from the, or obtained from the owner of the building of the apartment.
So why was it video seized? Why is it that you get involved with that process in Rochester?
It's not always renderable by the device that you're trying to play it on, with the department laptop or desktop or whatever it may be. Sometimes CDRs have a proprietary format. It's just simply not playable on some devices. Oftentimes we can zoom in on the screen and see details.
So with regards to this initial video, did you have an opportunity to view it?
I did.
Okay, what did you view on the video?
In the initial one, it was during the daytime. The first one we obtained was at night. As we started to review, we could see a vehicle that was involved in a possible suspect.
And on that initial video, were you able to get any more details about that particular vehicle that was involved?
We were able to see that it was a gray-colored vehicle that appeared to be, or at least resembled at that point, that Ford Fusion type vehicle. We also saw when the door was opened on that vehicle, there was a red keyless entry pad that would illuminate at night. It stuck out very brightly on the video.
And what times had you received as far as the video? The times at the parking lot at that time?
Initially, my review was just of that evening, and things progressed very quickly once that happened. We obtained the afternoon as well, computer advantage.
We'll get back to that video in a minute, but I want to switch gears for now. I want to talk about Jordan Lamonde. Okay. So at some point, do you get information that he may have been involved in this assault?
Yes.
And how did you get that information?
That had been developed through the investigations division. One of the investigators with that information.
And based on receiving that information, what did you do?
I met with Detective Sergeant Emerson, afternoon of the 21st, and we got together in the mountain to try to get in contact with them.
And where did you go? And what happened when you were home?
We drove up from law enforcement that way when we approached the road area, as soon as the south side of the residence, and the vehicle was parked out on the side of the roadway facing south. And we could immediately see that it was a great board illusion, and we saw what we saw in the video. We also noted that there was a block device, some kind of a device that was mounted on the windshield just above the dashboard. You can see on the video, and a white sticker on what would be the top driver's side corner.
So was this vehicle consistent with all of the descriptors you had seen in the video on the vehicle on the...
It was, yes.
So when you arrived at this residence, did you make contact with him?
We did. We could see that there was a male in the car. We drove past it. We turned around on the same road and pulled in.
And did you have an opportunity to speak with that man?
We did.
And did he identify himself?
He did.
And who did he identify himself as?
George Lamonde.
Now, at that point, did you have an opportunity to observe Mr. Lamonde physically?
I did. Sergeant Emerson made contact with George himself. As we were speaking with him, his grandfather came out and spoke with him.
While you were speaking with Jordan's grandfather, were you able to observe Jordan?
Awesome.
And had you seen the male on the video?
I did.
What did you see as far as comparisons of the characteristics of the two men?
It was daylight hours when we were talking in the driveway area at the side of the road, and I noted that Jordan didn't have any facial hair at that point. It was gone. But you could see sort of a telltale tan line or white area on the areas of his face with hair.
And what did that indicate to you as a detective or just police department?
That it was recently shaved off in his face.
And at this point, had the Rochester Police Department put out any information into the media?
There have been several press releases. I'm not familiar at what point we were at.
So you said that you were talking with Jordan's grandfather and Sergeant Emerson was speaking with Mr. Lamonde. At some point, did Mr. Lamonde agree to do a recorded interview?
He did.
And where did that interview happen?
Inside their, I guess it would be the kitchen area, sitting area in their house.
And again, what was the purpose of that interview?
We went down there to either confirm or rule out that he was involved in this assault.
Did you speak with him about the assault at the Planet Fitness?
We did.
Okay. And did he indicate whether or not he had been involved with that assault?
He indicated that he had heard about it through media, but he was not involved.
Did he indicate whether or not he had ever been to Rochester?
At some point during an interview, he had said that he had never been to that assault.
During that interview, did he provide you with any information related to a potential alibi?
He did. He indicated that he was at a friend Skylar's house that evening. That actually was fairly close to the residence, actually.
And at some point were you able to dispel that that alibi was accurate?
Objection. Hearsay.
Want to approach? And if you could hold on.
So Detective, I'll just say, he had provided you with information about an alibi.
He did.
So now, at some point you and Sergeant Emerson leave?
We did.
And during this next period of time, are you still receiving tips as far as who this individual might have been?
Yes.
Okay, what are you doing as you receive those tips?
We're triaging them as best as we can. It's kind of a rapid process where tips are flowing in and they have to be flowing around.
And did any of those tips lead anywhere in your investigation?
As far as towards the original with Jordan,
With the exception of the tip on Mr. Lamonde, did any of those other tips generate a suspect?
not a suspect that we weren't able to rule out.
Now, at some point, did you receive more video from Planet Fitness?
We did.
Okay. And tell us about that video. Is there anything different about it?
It was a slightly different angle than we had originally obtained. It was two different units. It's a little easier to see, and we were able to basically watch from the afternoon at up 2 o'clock onward.
And when you watched that particular video, was there anything specific that you were able to see in regards to the video? I'm sorry, in regards to the vehicle?
We were able to see it arrive. We were able to see that this is likely a New Hampshire plate. It's partially readable, that you can make out some images in different frames. It gets blurry and clears out. It was readable.
Okay, you said you were able to read the license plate?
We were.
Okay, and what was the license plate number on the vehicle?
Can I refer to those?
Well, let me ask you this, did you write a report in this case?
I did.
Okay, and would seeing a copy of that report help your refresh your recollection as to the license plate number of the vehicle? This is page 28 of the special. Well, just read it to yourself and then does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Okay, what is the?
2387192.
And after you were able to obtain that plate, were you able to do anything with that license plate number?
That plate was registered to Zaremba.
I'm going to show you what's previously been admitted as a full exhibit. This is State's Exhibit 1. I'll just ask you to take a look at this, see if you can recognize that document.
Yes, this is the handheld copy or version of the New Hampshire registrations.
And who is that registration for?
For Roxanne one.
And does it indicate the license plate number?
It does.
And what is the license plate?
The same number, 3387192.
Does it describe the type of vehicle?
It is. It's a Ford Fusion. It is a 2015. And it's red.
I'll ask Mr. Lamonde, the residence, did you document his vehicle at the time?
I took photos with my department insurance.
I'm just going to show you State's Exhibit 2.
His vehicle's in front, the Ford Fusion, but our police vehicle from Rochester is behind it. And it's just indicating the front view that we can see on the video as close as we can get it to the plate. And also showing the device on the dashboard, the window, above the dashboard, the white sticker.
Is that the vehicle that you saw Mr. Lamonde sitting in when you wrecked?
Yes, it is.
Detective, at this point, it sounds like you've received 3 sets of video from the Planet Fitness area, is that right?
3 batches from 2 cameras, basically. We got an initial of the scene at night, and then from that same vantage point, we received a longer period of time, and then from a camera that's actually on the northern corner, more video from that as well.
And when you had all this video, let's start with what is the time that the video starts?
The video we received in totality was 2 p.m. They started
And when does the video end?
until about 10:30.
And during that 2 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., are you able to observe that vehicle the entire time?
Yes.
And I'll just ask you, did you create anything to demonstrate the vehicle and the time of being in the park?
I did. In the interest of, you can see the vehicle arrive shortly after 2 o'clock, it's about 2:20 in the afternoon, and then it moves several times through the parking lot, just to document where it was. You take stills from those videos and just chain them together to show the time.
And you said it was moving in the parking lot?
It moves through several different spots, yes.
Where is it moving towards?
It comes from the entrance, and it starts on the southern end of the parking lot, it moves to the north end, and the no parking area is what it essentially is. As different spots open up, the car moves into different vantage points, it gets closer to the center area where the assault took place.
Was there something in the center area that was relevant to the investigation?
The victim's vehicle.
And you said you put a timeline video together?
I did.
I'm going to show you what's been marked. It states Exhibit 22. I'll ask you to, if you could just step down here. So Detective, if you could explain to the jury what we're looking at in this first screen and what time we're looking at.
This is at 2:19:52 p.m. This is North Main Street. This is the whole plaza of that building. As it goes out, this is the north corner of the building. And then the other vantage point is the little cameras right there, facing straight out. This is the suspect vehicle that enters the parking lot at that time. He's coming from North Main Street.
And what are we looking at now?
So now his car is going from this entranceway to come around and it's parked right there. So now he left that spot, he's driven along through here, and he's coming along and eventually parked here a little, about a minute, less than a minute into the video. That's his first parking area. This isn't a parking space where he's at. He's also on the corner, hanging out a little bit. As you watch, you see cars trying to go by. He backs out. His car now is back here. I know it's difficult to see. You have to deal with the camera angle we have. But there's a car in front of him. His is behind now. This is the victim's vehicle straight on from him. That's the same camera that takes a video. At this point, the car in front of him has pulled out and there's a clear view of the front of his vehicle.
Detective, just to be clear, what time is this on the video?
These clocks coincided with each other. You can watch both videos to see that the times are within seconds of each other. And now we're looking at 14:37.
What is 14:37?
Sorry, 2:47 p.m. So at this point, the front of his car that car is moved. He moved up into that spot. This next frame, you're starting to see there's somebody, if you can see well enough, there's somebody sitting in this car, and they're starting to back out. He's already begun to move his vehicle forward, so that car itself, the next frame is going to show him sliding into that spot. Then he pulls in, he sits in that spot. The vehicle is there for the majority of the evening.
And what time is this now?
This is at 3:03 p.m.
And what time is this at now?
That is at, it's hard to read, but it's at 5:20 p.m. He's still in the car. We can watch him from time to time and see that it's sitting.
So, Detective, I think you answered my question, but obviously we're showing different portions of this. At any time during that period, does Mr. Lamonde get out of the car?
His door opens once. It's either the next frame or the frame after that, his door is open and you can see him pouring a liquid. You can see the puddle form on the ground, his hands out, and the door shuts. He gets out again. Later on in the evening, it's dark. Appears to be urinating outside the vehicle, between him and the door, back in the vehicle, and he's not out again until the assault.
Okay, but up until this point, he's still been in the parking lot?
Yes.
Has not?
Yes. This is where he's pouring the water. You can see the puddle on the ground right there, and the water pouring out, whatever it is. Turns out.
What time is this?
That's at 9:05.
So going back to 2 o'clock to 9:05, is there any other time between those 7 hours where he's out of the vehicle?
Oh, no.
Does he ever leave the parking lot of Planet Fitness during any of that time?
No, he does not. This is when he's initially exiting the vehicle. That's the vehicle departing. The reason I took this shot, even though it's afterwards, is the lights are off on that vehicle. They stay off as the vehicle departs the parking lot and goes back northbound on North Main Street. His lights are off. That's the vehicle pulling out. Make out the back end of it. That's what it is.
Detective, those are all the questions I have for you. Thank you.
Your cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Afternoon, Detective.
Afternoon.
Recently retired detective.
Yes.
Just a couple obvious things. You didn't witness this encounter personally, right?
No, sir.
And you were with Sergeant Emerson, also of the Rochester PD, for that trip to Jordan's house on the
Yes.
21st of June, right?
Yes.
And when you were there, Jordan was there, right?
Yes.
And he engaged with you all in a discussion.
Me briefly, mostly with Pat Emerson.
And you noticed that his appearance may have been, like, he had recently shaved.
Yes.
But he also still had long hair, right?
Yeah. I don't think his hair didn't ring a bell the way that it changed significantly.
Right, so that he had the same length hair as the person in the video.
It's hard to tell that way.
Well, you didn't notice any difference between the two.
I didn't, yes, correct.
And one of the things that you and Sergeant Emerson did there was you wanted to look at Jordan's hands, right?
I think Pat Emerson did that. That's a concern, but I typically don't run that as a major issue on these types of cases. I mean, they can indicate some information.
Well, it can, you said that somebody's hands, if they're a potential assailant,
Could get bruised, could get marked, right?
Sure. And one of the things that Sergeant Emerson did when the two of you were there together talking to Jordan is ask Jordan if you could seize his hands, right?
Again, Pat Emerson and Jordan were speaking probably 10, 15 feet away from me while I spoke to his grandfather in the driveway, specifically out of voice range.
And you indicated that that's something that could show potential injury, right?
It could.
And if that showed potential injury, it may be evidence of the offense, right?
It could be.
And do you understand that Sergeant Emerson asked Jordan to look at his hands?
I believe that's in his narrative at some point.
Yeah, that's right, in his report. And are you aware that Sergeant Emerson didn't see any indications
I don't believe he did.
of any injury on Jordan's hand?
Correct.
So that's your understanding, there's no injury to Jordan's hand?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Detective, just very briefly, how long was it from the time that this incident happened until the time you ended up going to Mr. Lamonde's house?
Over a week passed. It was quite a ways between the initial report and by the time we got called to it.
And you said, Nick, your quote was, you don't view that as a major issue. Why not?
I had seen the video. I had seen the type of assault that had taken place. There may or may not have been injuries to the hand of the person doing that. It wasn't just hands that were used. It was the pavement, it was knees, it was multiple body parts being used for impact rather than just hands.
No further questions. Thank you.
Any recross?
Despite your qualifications or caveats there, certainly Sergeant Emerson felt that it was important to look at Jordan's hands.
Yes, and I trusted Sergeant Emerson to be able to check his hands properly.
Right, and that wasn't a waste of time.
I wouldn't consider it a waste of time, absolutely not.
And did he check other parts of Jordan's body for injury?
We did not.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You may step down.
And may we approach, please?
Of course. Folks, we're going at a pace that is much quicker, I think, than anybody expected. So the next witness is due here in about 15 minutes. So we'll take a break until the next witness arrives. The balance of the afternoon may be a little choppy, so I'm going to ask you for your patience now, and we'll likely end early today as well. All right?
All right, jury departing.
State call your next witness, please.
State calls Detective Justin Livingstone, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Can you come around the back side, remain standing just for a moment, raise your right hand. Please swear that the testimony you're about to give to this jury will be the truth and the whole truth under the penalties of perjury.
Yes, sir.
Please be seated.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good, how are you, sir?
All right. Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Justin Livingstone, Livingstone.
And Mr. Livingstone, are you currently employed, sir?
I am a detective with the Rochester Police Department.
How long have you been a detective with the Rochester Police Department?
Officer for 15 years and detective for 4.
In total, how many years of law enforcement experience do you have?
15 years.
And as part of your responsibilities as a detective, can you tell the jury some of the investigations you become involved in?
Involved in homicides, sexual assault investigations, felonious assaults, things of that nature.
And can you describe for the jury how it is that, as a detective, you would become involved in a criminal investigation?
A lot of times we get assigned investigations by our supervisor. Other times if it's a felonious situation or a death investigation that's happening while we're working, we'll go out and deal with that. But typically it's our supervisor that lets us know when we should get involved and when we need to get.
At some point, did you become involved in an investigation involving Jordan Lamonde?
I did.
Can you walk the jury through how you initially became involved in that investigation?
I actually just happened to walk into the patrol report room one day and was watching the officers who were watching a video on the computer, surveillance video. I watched the video and ended up seeing an attack between a male and a female. And it kind of took me back as far as the ferociousness of that attack. So I started asking the officers questions about the investigation and offered to provide my assistance at that point if they needed any.
So at that point, did you become involved as a detective working in this case?
I did.
Having seen the video, did you identify who the female person on the video was at that time?
Yes.
Okay, and who was that?
Erin McCarthy.
And did you have an opportunity to speak with her that day?
I did. I had the initial officer give her a call to have her come back into the East Station so I could get some more information from her.
And approximately how long after this initial, after the assault on the video had occurred, was it that you first met with Ms. McCarthy?
I believe it was a week. I believe it was a week from the point the assault happened to the point where they actually got the video and were able to see the assault.
So happens on June 12th, you see it on June 19th?
Correct.
Okay. And you said you had a chance to speak with Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to observe her?
I did.
And what did you physically observe of her on June 19th?
I noticed that she still had a lot of bruising around her left eye. Her knuckles and hands had some scrapes and stuff on them.
And you said you were able to watch some video. In addition to seeing the female, did you see a male on the video?
I did.
And what was his description?
His description was a white male, kind of a thin build, longish hair, was wearing a ball cap.
In addition to the ball cap, was he wearing anything else?
He was wearing a pair of sunglasses that we ended up collecting from the scene.
Now, after that initial video which showed the assault, did you receive any other video from Planet Fitness?
I did.
Okay, and after having an opportunity to watch that video, what were you able to identify?
I was able to identify the vehicle that was involved, the time that the suspect was in that parking lot.
And what time was that he arrived?
Entered the parking lot, I believe, 2:20, right around 2:19, 2:20 p.m. that day, and stayed there until the assault, which was around 10 o'clock p.m.
So now you have this video. At this point, do you have a suspect?
Not yet, no.
At some point, do you receive information about this person possibly being Jordan Lamonde?
Yes.
And how do you receive that information?
We received that information from a tip from a female named Savannah, who provided us with that name. And once we received that name, we began checking to see if a vehicle that fit the description that we had in the video was related to that person.
And after you checked, were you able to determine whether there was a vehicle similar to what you saw in the video related to that person?
Yes, there was.
Okay, and what was that vehicle?
It was a gray Ford Fusion that was registered to Jordan's grandmother.
And did you have an opportunity to speak with Savannah?
Yes, I did.
Okay, without getting into what she told you, did she provide you information that you later used in your investigation?
Yes, she did.
Based on that information, did any officers go and speak with Mr. Lamonde as far as you know?
Yes, they did.
Okay, who went to speak with Mr. Lamonde?
Sergeant Emerson and Detective Burke.
While they were speaking with him, what were you doing?
At that point, I was talking with Savannah. So once we found out the information, Sergeant Emerson and Detective Burke went to try and make contact with the Lamondes, and I went and spoke with Savannah to get what information I could.
Now, Detective, did you receive or obtain anything else during this portion of your investigation? Let me ask, as it relates to Aaron McCarthy.
I'm not sure what.
Did you receive medical records?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. And now I want to switch gears and talk about a little bit later on in your investigation, okay?
Sure.
At some point, do you go back to Mr. Lamonde's house?
Yes.
Okay, what's the purpose of that?
The purpose was to try and talk to Jordan again, based on the information that we had received up to that point.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. In addition to trying to talk with Jordan, did you have search warrants for anything at that point?
We did for the Ford Fusion.
Okay. Did you ultimately take the Ford Fusion?
We did.
And during that interaction with Mr. Lamonde at his house, did you learn about his employer, Home Depot?
Yes.
Based on that information, did you go to speak with his boss?
Yes.
And who was that?
I don't know his name right off the top of my head.
I told you, Joseph Zaremba?
Yes.
Sound right?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit more. At some point, do you receive more video from Planet Fitness?
Yes.
And when you're able to see anything additional through this Planet Fitness video?
The final video we got, I believe, we could see the plate of the vehicle much more clearly, and we're able to compare that with the plate we already knew was on Jordan's vehicle, and you could see that it was the same plate.
Now, in addition to the Planet Fitness video, Detective, did you obtain any other video?
I received toll booth videos from the Dover tolls and Rochester tolls.
And did you have an opportunity to view the toll booth videos?
I did.
And what, if anything, did you observe on the toll booth videos?
I was able to see the vehicle come northbound the day of the incident through the Dover tolls and the Rochester tolls. And based on what the vehicle looked like and the times that he went through the tolls, it made sense as far as the time he pulled into the Planet Fitness parking lot.
And I'm going to ask you, Detective, if you remember, but what times does he go through the Dover toll booth?
He goes through at 2:05 and 53 seconds through the Dover tolls, and then at 2:16 and 4 seconds the Rochester tolls, and then enters the Planet Fitness parking lot at 2:19 and 53 seconds.
And just to be clear, where did Mr. Lamonde live at the time?
In Portsmouth.
So, Detective, the last set of questions I have, I want to go back now. You said you had an opportunity to watch the video.
Yes.
And you were able to watch the entire assault?
Yes.
Towards the end of the assault, can you describe what, if anything, changes about Mr. Lamonde's body?
Towards the end is where, like right at the end is where his sunglasses get basically ripped from his head or face. And at that point he throws Aaron to the ground, runs to his car, gets in and takes off.
So his sunglasses come off his head, throws her to the ground and hops in the car?
Right.
And how would you describe the speed with which his vehicle left the area?
Objection, Your Honor. The jury has the video. They can watch it themselves. He's in no better position to tell them about it than they are themselves to view it.
That's fine, Your Honor. The video speaks for itself.
All right, sustained, and the question is withdrawn.
Detective, those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cross-examination?
No questions. Thank you, Judge.
So you may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
She may be here, Your Honor, if I can check, but I
So
don't
we'll
know.
check and see if the next witness is here. We're not actually expecting the witness till 3, so I did say it would be choppy. I warned you.
she's not here yet,
All right.
but we're trying to get her as soon as we can.
All right, folks, so we'll break until the next witness is here, and I believe this is the last witness for the afternoon.
Yes.
So when that witness is complete, we'll be done for the day. So we'll be back to you shortly.
All right, jury party. All rise, jury entry.
Please be seated.
All right, State Clause.
State Clause Officer Brittany Marvin.
Good afternoon. If you kindly raise your right hand, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give to this jury will be the truth and the whole truth and the penalty of perjury? Please be seated.
Officer, can you state your name for the record and spell your last name?
Officer Bertie Marvin, M-A-R-V-I-N,
Officer Marvin, where are you currently employed?
Rochester Police Department.
And what is your current position?
I am a full-time patrol officer.
And what types of things does a patrol officer do?
We take initial investigations as well as motor vehicle work.
And how long have you been a patrol officer?
4 years.
With Rochester the whole time?
That is correct.
And are you a certified police officer in the state of New Hampshire?
Yes, I am full-time certified.
I want to turn your attention now to June 12th, 2017. Were you on duty that day?
I was.
At some point during that shift, did you respond to Planet Fitness in Rochester?
I did.
What was the general nature of this call?
The general nature was that someone was calling in an assault of somebody else, an employee at Planet Fitness, saying that she had been hit in the back of the head multiple times and then was attacked from the front
What time of day did this call come in?
at night.
And did you respond alone or with another officer?
As with another officer.
And when you first arrived on scene, who did you initially meet with?
We went inside and met with the worker who was assaulted as well as the person who had called it in.
Do you remember what that worker's name was?
Erica?
This is Erin McCarthy.
Oh, Erin, I'm sorry. Yes, Erin McCarthy.
Where did you initially meet with Erin?
We met with her by the front desk inside, and she'd been brought back inside because she was visibly shaken and she was extremely scared.
So that kind of goes into my next question. So when you first met with her, how did she appear? What was her demeanor like?
She couldn't speak because she was so shaken. She was trying to explain what was going on, but she couldn't due to her whole body was shaking, so her voice wasn't able to articulate any words.
Was she able to say anything to you at this point where you're still inside of the
The only thing she's really able to get out was that she didn't know who it was, and that was what she kept saying over and over again.
During this initial meeting with her, did you notice any injuries on her?
She had blood under her eye and on her left hand.
Did you observe any other injuries or feel any other injuries?
While she was talking to us, she was feeling the back of her head and saying that there was a bump, so I put gloves on, and I started feeling the back left side of her head, and there was a pretty significant bump already forming.
And you said you were able to feel that with your hand?
That is correct.
Did your conversation with Erin stay in the gym or did it move at some point?
It moved at some point. We stayed inside and let EMS look at her. Usually any abrasions to the head could lead to a brain bleed, which could cause death. So we stayed inside and waited for EMS to check her out, and they offered to bring her. She was adamant about someone else bringing her. After that, she was not able to proceed with the story because she was so upset, so we moved it outside to take her out of that element to hopefully try to start her again, telling exactly what had happened.
You mentioned that EMS responded. Did you call EMS or did someone else call EMS?
I believe EMS gets toned automatically with any assault.
And you mentioned that you went outside with Erin. Was she calmer when you went outside?
I'm sorry?
Was Erin calmer when you went outside with her?
Not by much.
Without getting into what she said, was she able to provide you more information once you were outside?
She was. She took us through step by step, and it helped her being able to to brought her back to what had happened.
And was it your understanding that the assault had occurred outside?
That is correct.
Your Honor, just a minute.
Yes.
When you were outside with Erin, did she show you anything, again, without getting into what she said, did she show you anything in relation to the assault?
She showed us which door that she had been in when she had gotten attacked, and she showed sunglasses that were on the ground that she said that had been the person who had assaulted her.
And when you said door, is that the door to a
The
car?
vehicle, yes,
So she showed you where she was in the parking lot?
correct.
Officer Marvin, I think that's all the questions I have here. I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Durkin for my next.
Attorney Durkin, cross-examination.
I think you said on direct, but maybe I got it wrong, please correct me if I do, but that she couldn't talk inside and you had to bring her outside so she was able to talk?
She was able to talk, but she was only really able to say to us, I didn't know who it was, and she said kept saying it over and over again. So to take her out of that and bring her into a new environment to try to make her more comfortable or jog her memory by being at the place where it actually took place.
That's not in your report, right?
I don't know. I don't have my report in front of me.
Did you not review your report for testimony today?
I did.
You did or did not?
I did.
You did review it. When did you review it?
Before I came over here.
And it's less than half a page long?
Correct.
And you don't know what's in it and what's not in it, even though you read it just before you came here?
I don't know word for it. I didn't memorize that word for it, no.
Well, you read it because you wanted to refresh your recollection about what to testify to.
That is correct.
But you can't say right now, sitting here under oath in the stand, if your report says the things which you just testified about, right?
I know that it happened. It was meant to refresh my memory.
How many investigations have you done since June of 2017?
An uncountable amount.
And before you testify, you review your reports before your testimony, right?
That is correct.
And the reason you write reports is so you can be accurate and detailed when you actually are called to testify, which can be months or years later, right?
Correct.
And you had to review your report in order to testify today.
Correct.
Let me show you your report, and you can tell me if there's anything in there about having to take her outside so she can communicate.
There's one that says that we specifically brought her outside because of that. It says, she stated that
it's not in there.
she stated that she did not know who did this and brought us up to her vehicle.
But the answer to my question is there's nothing in your report about you having to take her outside so she can communicate.
No, that's typically what we do on all of our investigations.
I'll answer the question again. Is there anything in your report that says you had to take her outside so she could communicate with you?
No.
No question.
All right, redirect.
Just very briefly. So Marvin, does your report say anything about her general demeanor when you were speaking with her? And I have a copy of your report, but I'll refresh your recollection.
When we first got there, yeah, she was visibly shaken so much that even her voice was trembling while she was speaking.
And is that included in your report?
That is included in my report.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Any recross?
No additional questions.
All right, so you said. Ready for today?
That is today, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that concludes witnesses for today. We'll meet again tomorrow morning, be here by 10 o'clock so we can get started right at 10 o'clock. Convene in the jury assembly room. Again, you're reminded not to expose yourself to any media about this case this evening and not discuss the case with anyone even amongst yourself. See you in the morning.
All right, starting party.
So earlier this afternoon, I had a copy of the proposed instructions given to you. I'd like you to take a look at the substantive instructions on the elements of the offense tonight if you have a chance to do that. And then if there are any other sort of routine instructions that you'd like given, I pared them down quite a bit based on what's happened so far. So if there's anything that you really need or want,
I do have I gave an email this to Tim earlier in the week.
Okay.
It's a second-degree assault instruction.
All right,
that
good.
I think more appropriate, I only skimmed what you provided to us, but I think it more appropriately sets out. I think Tim had an objection over the words could versus would, and perhaps he and I can have a conversation about that before addressing it with you, but I don't know if he had any additional objections.
Can you just direct me to where the could versus would controversy comes up?
It would be first page, bottom half, under the 1, 2s, and 3s. So at least under 1, the bottom half, the defendant was aware of a substantial and unjustifiable risk that his conduct would cause the death. I think Tim's objection was could cause the death.
Okay.
And there may be another would, could in there. Did I miss one?
I think there are at least another one in paragraph 2. In the paragraph that starts, a person acts recklessly. It's in that paragraph, and then paragraph 2, it's in that paragraph as well. Just so it's clear on it, the state's position is the instruction the court has included appears to be the standard instruction, and that's the appropriate one. My specific objection to this instruction is, again, that it says that his conduct would cause the death, and that's not the law, and that's not the appropriate instruction. I think it's simply the risk associated with the conduct that it could happen, not that it would have definitively happened. So I would overall object to any modifications, but that's the specific objection to that proposed instruction.
All right, so I'll take a look at this, compare it to the model instructions and what I've drafted so far, and invite you both to look at what I've done so far and offer any additional instructions, or if you want any instructions modified or taken out. Okay?
Thank you, Judge.
All right, we'll see you in the morning.
10 o'clock?
Is it 10 o'clock? Yes.